Everybody, hope you're well and well done. We're in our third program now. Just to remind ourselves, these are the questions we're looking at, and today the one in purple is the one we're going to be setting up, okay, which is explain and analyze 3 factors that influence the relationship between ministers and civil servants. Let's have a look at it then. Okay, well, I would suggest we get out our slice of rough paper and see if you can do the 3 principles of the civil service. Okay, what are they and why are they important? To help us along with this, we're looking at Cure, Friday, I'm in Love. This is a song that I was writing this lesson to. Now, pause. Okay, well, now you got on. There's 3 principles here. I think it's really important that you understand what they are. We have on this side neutrality of the civil service, permanence, and anonymity. They're all interconnected. But the importance of neutrality, okay, is it allows civil servants to work with every government. Doesn't matter what sort of ideology they have. So we have a situation where Callaghan's government could leave in 1979 and be replaced by Thatcher's government, and yet the civil servants would stay the same. This also links obviously down into permanence. Okay, the continuity that can exist therefore between different elected governments and policy implementation. You don't have a complete change around every time a government comes into place. You have a level of continuity, which means there's a smoothness in how the policy is developed. And finally, and the one we're probably going to be talking about the most over the next few weeks, is anonymity. Actually making sure that the civil servants aren't known to the public. Why is this important? Well, for 2 reasons, really. They don't want to be pressurized by outside forces who are trying to push them into a particular policy direction. And surely they shouldn't be made publicly accountable. Reason being, ministers are supposed to be. Okay, let's hope you got those 3 right. Whether or not those 3 exist still is one of the major questions we've got to ask ourselves. So, one of the things you were doing, we're preparing the notes from Kevin Theakson's article about ministers and Mandarins and the 4 models. What I'm going to do today is just take you through those 4 models with your notes in front of you to make sure they're strong enough. If they're not, make sure you're adding to them. And if you're not too sure, make sure you email me if you don't understand exactly what each of these could mean. All right, so let's play. Here's the first one, the formal constitutional model. Service is a non-political bureaucracy. Yes, indeed. Okay, so this is the traditional view, which says that as the minister is the elected person, they make all the key decisions. Therefore, the civil servant is subservient to the minister. That's the way it works. Okay, the minister takes final accountability in Parliament. Now, the civil servant still will be expected to give frank advice on whether or not policy will or will not work. That's fine, but at the end of the day, they don't make the decision. This is what is the normative model of what goes on in government. Compared to the adversarial model, the second model, much more subjective view, okay, which says that because of the advantages the civil service have in terms of expertise, permanence, they can actually exploit that situation to impose their will upon the minister. The minister has limited tenure, and what that means is they stay for a shorter period of time in office, usually potentially up to 2 years. Because of that, they lack their understanding of the department. It probably takes about 6 months to get used to what actually goes on, and the influence they can have is somewhat limited. In comparison, the civil servant, being there all the time, has developed a range of networks, an understanding and information of what can actually occur, and can use that to exploit the position over the minister. Some, such as Tony Benn on the left wing, Mrs. Thatcher on the right wing, have said that the civil service are too conservative, small c. Consequently, what they do is they stick to the status quo. In other words, it stays the same. And it's very difficult for a minister to impose themselves upon the civil servant without being obstructed. That's the concern of the adversarial model. Now that contrasts to the third model, the village life model. Now, the focus of this is to say that the other 2 models are way too simplistic. Actually, the reality is these guys work together. Why? Because they actually see the benefits of working together in terms of their department. It's not that they're fighting amongst themselves, it's between different departments because they're all looking for money at the end of the day. So, civil servant prefers their minister to be stronger. He's got to be able to fight for their views in cabinet. What the minister will provide is the political energy. What the civil servant will provide is the practical guidance. And the two of them working together will actually make more effective policy. That is the village life model, and probably a more realistic view of how things are developed over time. But it does depend, obviously, on the agenda of the civil servant and the experience and strength of the minister. Which takes us to the final one, the bureaucratic expansionist model. Traditionally, the students have found this one the hardest, and you have to understand that for this to work, the new right philosophy, which basically means that New Right believe that government shouldn't spend any extra money. In fact, their ideal would be to spend less so they can cut taxes. People know how to spend their own money and they shouldn't be giving it to the government. The worry of the New Right is that civil servants, by their very nature, like to develop money for their own department. They are self-interest budget growers. Consequently, what they do is they force the minister to go native. In other words, follow their plans to try and grow the department's money. As a result of which, departments will frustrate the PM's desire to cut money, and therefore always the cake, that's what I mean by the budget of the whole country, will continue to grow and grow and grow, meaning taxes will have to rise or deficits will rise. Consequently, the civil service is bloated and inefficient. That is the village life model with a subjective twist. Okay? And there's your 4 models. Please check yours. I'm going to send this PowerPoint so you can check your notes against it. Right. Now, how does that work then? Well, if you consider this question, the 9-mark question that we started with, explain and analyze 3 factors that influence the relationship between ministers and civil servants. You can see our 3 points. The first one, the relation is defined by the constitutional relationship that exists within the formal constitutional model. So the normative model we talked about would be the explanation you would want to put in this place. You've got to think about your analysis. Is it the case that that constitutional model will always be the case? Is it set in stone? If it's not, then that's where your analysis lies, okay, in terms of the strength of that particular factor in influencing the relationship. The second one, the expertise of the civil servants. You have to acknowledge the fact that actually the relationship is dependent on how the civil servants will support the minister in their work. Could be influenced by special advisors, but I would say your main explanation is going to be around the adversarial model and the concerns about the relationship that might exist there. Third point is about them sharing goals. So this is a village life model. And you can say the influence upon the relationship is the fact that they are both working to try and develop their own department, whether that be health, education, defense. They can see the benefits of actually getting more money into their area so they can do more projects, and therefore they work together. Remembering that the civil servant provides the policy guidance and the minister provides that political energy. Okay? Now, what you'll be doing here is judging in the analysis the significance of that. Is that a more likely situation, although more complicated, than the previous 2? Now, you've done a 9-mark question for me previously. This is your second go. So, what I want you to do, I want you to type this up and send it to me for Friday. Okay, so I can do the same thing again. I've given you less structure this time, but I want to see how you cope. So you're using your fixings notes to be able to see if you can do this. I hope you had the opportunity to watch the one on the Home Office. This one is excellent on the Treasury. Okay, so if you want to find out a little bit more about how the Treasury works, here is the same series, but this one's focused on the Treasury instead. All right, so stay safe, enjoy this, and look forward to the work on Friday. Cheers.